I'm Desiree.
And I'm E. Nicole.
And we are faculty and fellows at InPower Institute, a community of healing and optimal living. Our series marks the 400th anniversary of the first Africans who arrived as captives. Today we will center our discussion around the theme, 400 years of denial is a bitch. It's time to heal, y'all. So let's get into it. Denial. Something that we as people across the African diaspora are very familiar with. The legacy of denial. Denying ourselves ranging from basic human rights, dignity, and respect, to the ways that we've internalized that denial and deny ourselves things that really bring us joy. So where does this idea of self-denial come from? How did we get to this point?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, man, 400 years of denial is a bitch. So where does self-denial come from? You know, I often wonder, is it something that was, induced at time of slavery? Or was there some experience and notion of it that we, as Black people, did experience beforehand?
You're saying that the self-denial, the concept of it, was it forced upon us during slavery, or did we come across the water with it?
Yeah.
I think there was probably some version of it in our homeland, but it wasn't drilled into us as such as it was when we were on a plantation and being told, no, you can't take a break. I don't care about it being 8,000 degrees. Come get these lashes. Just that forcing of denial of an existence, of being a person, of having feelings.
Yeah. And how you can, what you're going to do with your body, what is your body used for, when you think about on the plantation and everything like that, being forced for breeding and everything else, and just how that may have differed. Lauren, what do you think?
Yeah, I think there's a social context to denial. I think it's also some spiritual context within that. Many world religions or spiritual practices teach that in order to ascend in a certain area spiritually, that you have to deny flesh, body. It's like this category of what's high and what's low. And so in those instances, it's like denial is important from some perspectives. So we are taught that to deny ourselves of things is healthy and good.
Yeah, so it's kind of like as far as with your question of where does self-denial come from, it doesn't come from self.
No. That is true. It doesn't come from self.
It's not self-denial. It's a denial of self.
Yeah.
But maybe we should rename that as, forced denial.
Yeah, we take on things thinking that it's our choice in doing it, but it's actually just a pattern of behaviors or beliefs that has been heaped upon us, or we think we are making this decision from a conscious state, but the underlining kind of motives are the external pressures that are telling you in order to be a good human being, whatever that means, then you have to learn to tell yourself no.
Yeah, maybe a good question is, as far as where the idea comes from, well, who does this type of denial benefit?
Right.
And we may be able to retrace, back to who benefits from certain persons or people denying their right to being liberated, to just living and thriving.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think historically it definitely didn't benefit us. That they're in a system of hierarchy, and there is someone who has more power, and that you must submit or, I guess submit to or follow the instructions of. And a part of that, even a hierarchical system, is around denial, because I'm doing what someone else is instructing me to do, whether I necessarily agree or not. But because they have power and position, I have to deny what I really want for the sake of this person with more power, or, yeah.
I think that leads right into the next question of how we've been taught to deny ourselves. And just based off our last question, is all the things that have been imposed upon us. So you say we've been told, to be this great person or be seen as somebody of importance, you can't participate in certain behaviors. What if you like, sex on the regular, but you've been taught, hey, that's not what good Christians do, or good people. We don't self-indulge.
Or girls aren't supposed to. That's not who that's for.
That's not who that's for. What if I like get my cheeks clapped? What if that's a thing for me? But you're telling me I can't have entrance into, my golden mansion because that's what it is, because I like my cheeks clapped.
Yes, but then we internalize, because now I have a desire to do something that I have been told is off limits for me, and so now because I have that desire, I think that I'm a bad person, or I'm not living up to the social standards of what has been outlined for me. But I think, I think rules, we're just really conditioned at a young age to, there's a binary, there's a right and wrong, and that's it. And so all of these rules, or many rules, are in place because there's no gray, there's no alternative perspective. It's just very, it's like the polar opposite. So we implement all these rules because we're trying to get people to make a certain decision, and then there's no room for the many other experiences in life.
Because the outcome is already decided.
Yeah, right.
And so let's just be clear. It's almost like creating a fake game to where those playing the game think that they're making choices that will result in them winning or losing or prolonging the game, when really the outcome is decided because you're playing someone else's game. And something that came to mind as far as with how have we been taught, I think, Lauren, you brought up a good point as far as what are the different systems that teach, self-denial, or denial of self, and definitely religion. And I was just looking at thinking of some of the other kind of social situations that also induce that. But I guess more prominent thing in my mind right now is you can have let's say the puppeteers who can create the initial game, but sometimes because of if you experience generational self-denial, one can be so removed from original puppeteer that your view of those who are orchestrating are actually those who may be parents, maybe whoever in your family who have been self-denying for so long that now they're teaching that is the way. So that can be just a really rough generational cycle.
Yeah. I was thinking the same, because it's definitely a learned behavior. Because you don't come out of the womb knowing to deny yourself pleasure, deny yourself different parts of liberation and freedom. That's taught to you, just like it was taught to whomever is teaching you. And that's when you get that friction, and when you're bucking against the system, no, I don't want to live like that. That doesn't serve me. That doesn't bring me joy. So we're going to do something different. And when you decide to do something different, that's when you are met with such resistance. Because sometimes people cannot see that with you getting free, you're also freeing them. And refusing denial is a form of liberation. And some people are just not ready for that step, but that's what it is.
Man, something in you saying all that made me think of, as we talk about this, something for us to consider and those who are listening is that denial isn't just denying the opportunity and chance and space to say yes. It's also denying the opportunity and space to say no.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And so just looking at all those different sides of that, and if we go to like as far as like what sex looks like, and can be, and how so often certain people, certain bodies, are limited and controlled on what you can say yes and no to. And just how then that I can remember thinking when I was a kid, and seeing the man that my mother married, when he would be intoxicated, be trying to push up on her and stuff like that, and she'd be like, "No, I'm trying to push him off," and everything like that. And I remember feeling so distraught as a kid and feeling like, why does he even get to come back in this house? And I remember her specifically saying, "Well, he's my husband." And so just that concept of feeling like, well, to some degree, even though I'm like, hey, get off, even though she was like, hey, get off, to some degree, she needs to abide by the laws and the overall system. And now he's navigating his own denial experience, by projecting all that on her.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, when we talked about who does self-denial serve, so, in many people's understanding of marriage is that you don't deny yourself, your body, to that of your partner. And so, in your example, where someone may want to, put up a boundary and no, and the other person not respecting that, so not even denying you the right to have autonomy over your own body. And so how that works when you're in relationship to another person, that they are expecting you not to say no to them, even though you might have your own, and it's teaching you also to deny yourself the decisions and the choices around how you want to live your life. So the guilt, I think sometimes that people feel, because when people who have a hard time saying no, they feel guilty because another person is expecting them to say yes, and rather than listen to themselves around what they really want, they deny their own autonomy and choices to engage with another person the way that they want to.
Yeah. So, with all that said, from where the hell this damn idea of self-denial came from, and how has it been taught, and who does it benefit, and everything like that. On the flip side, on the flip side of self-denial, what does self-embrace look like? What does it feel like? What does it smell like? What does it taste like? All of that.
I would say it feels like telling yourself yes, even when it will make other people uncomfortable. You cannot live for other people, because you're going to drive yourself to an early grave doing so. And so self-embrace to me looks and feels like being very comfortable with every decision that I am making for myself. Of course, taking some other people into consideration. Like, I don't want to cause any harm to anyone else, but I definitely don't want to cause any harm to myself by telling you yes. I'm not up on the cross for nobody. So I have to tell myself yes and be very comfortable with that yes. And if that means denying you access to what I have going on, then that's okay too. That's a denial that I can live with.
Yeah, I think it's also knowing yourself. Because for me, I had been in such a pattern of just following the expectations and the rules that was set before me, these standards that people say measure whether or not you're a good woman, daughter, friend, faith person, that I was just making decisions, not really considering if it's really benefiting me. So knowing myself and knowing all the things about me and loving all of the aspects about me helps me to embrace who I am, so that I'm able to say no.
For me, it smells like lavender. But before it smells like lavender, it actually smells like sage. In fact, first you hear it and it's the sound of you lighting that sage, because sometimes before self-embrace, it's time to detox any energy of self-denial that has been in the area, right? And so first it's that sage, and then it's whatever other scents and everything, to now I got this clear foundation, now I got this clear atmosphere. I already opened the windows, let that energy go ahead and flow out. And this can be physical windows, or this can all be metaphorical. First the detox, right? Because generational and historical impact is real, right? Not just what has happened exactly in my life or recently. And then from there, it may sound like a cool ass alternative R&B vibe. It may taste like chocolate. It may taste like I don't know, some Pinot Grigio. I have no idea.
It tastes like grits, hell.
Right.
I mean,
it might tace like pussy. Shit.
That too.
Real talk,
Yeah.
And so might taste like me biting my lip, and so self-embrace can be a lot. Mango shea butter, shit. But yeah, all of that.
Yeah, I think the idea of embracing ourselves, we say it in words, but we don't always really hold it within. So, everybody talks about loving yourself and being yourself, and it's great and catchy, but having a concept of it and practicing it, living it out, I think are two different things.
It's work.
It is work.
It's hard work. It's difficult work, but it's rewarding work. You definitely can't live for other people. Other people can't love you for you if you don't love yourself for you. So we can take all the time to self-care and to self-heal, but you actually have to do the work. It doesn't always look like bubble baths and candles.
Yeah.
Many times it's crying and snot.
It's the ugly cry.
It's the ugly cry.
Yeah.
So something we forgot to mention though, speaking of what all this and self-embrace can look like, is that we have something coming up next month, don't we?
We do?
Yeah. November 9th. One of y'all want to tell us about that's coming up?
So November 9th, we at InPower are hosting Reimagine, Reclaim, and Remember Pleasure, an intimate experience with people of color. So come and enjoy yourselves and learn all about us as we rediscover our own pleasure, reclaim our space and our sexuality and in this world. Information can be found on our website, www.empowerinstitute.com. Please connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at InPower Institute. Ask these questions of yourselves and to those you love. Where does the idea of self-denial come from? How we've been taught to deny ourselves, and what does self-embrace look like? Interact with us, leave us your questions and comments, and we'll get back to you.
All right, cool. That's November 9th. And once again, my name is E. Nicole.
I'm Lauren Zakia.
I'm Desiree.
Okay, Lauren Zakia. And thank you for listening to InPower Healing Circle. We'll be back.